Hello and welcome to our Ascendancy tier list for the newest expansion in Path of Exile 2. The third Edict update, unfortunately, does not bring the highly anticipated Druid class, but makes up for that with a massive influx of changes and new possibilities for existing classes and ascendancies. Many of them are not just numerical adjustments, there are a lot of fundamental reworks as well. Undoubtedly, the biggest impact is the new sprint mechanic, which adds a lot of mobility to every playstyle, but makes the fast and elusive classes even more outstanding. The defensive changes don't hit the mark quite yet. The evasion archetypes became even more powerful thanks to the deflection mechanic, while classes that rely on armor remain unfavorable. The armor can now apply to elemental damage as well as physical, but its effectiveness against bigger, deadlier hits is still low. Combined with the nerf to the Giant's Blood Keystone, the energy shield remains supreme over life in most cases, further pushing synergistic ascendancies to the top. The weapon swap system also received a massive update. Swapping weapons is now instant, and you can even use the same weapon for both skill sets. On top of that, it is now easier to combine multiple elemental damage types thanks to unified curse and exposure effects. Thanks to those changes, we will definitely see more variety in the top builds, and even more once many new classes are added to the game. Deadeye probably deserves its own tier. It's very popular due to the Tailwind's mobility. It will now automatically inflict marks, and consuming them will apply 5 stacks of critical weakness debuff. This evasion-focused class will also benefit from the new deflection stat that reduces damage taken. Keep in mind, achieving high and reliable survivability will require some proper and expensive gear. Even at lower investment levels, it will be quite effective for regular mapping, which is where you spend the majority of your time. The additional projectile is still an insanely valuable modifier for any projectile builds, which seem to dominate the ladder this league. Pathfinder has their concoctions reworked, although most of them are still bad. The most notable is the acidic concoction, but it requires a specific setup that focuses on a single powerful poison stack to work. The class is still an excellent choice for most regular poison builds due to doubling the maximum poison stacks. It is even more powerful now that you can use multiple copies of the same support gem, and, due to a new skill, Toxic Domain. We're excited about the possibilities it introduces. Amazon's crit chance has been nerfed, but now requires fewer accuracy investments to be worth it. The Amazons can still benefit from weapons with a high accuracy modifier, granting them extra physical damage as well, which is usually much cheaper than their regular counterparts. The elemental infusion has been slightly changed and renamed. It now grants 3 surges instead of 2 infusions, but it's still only useful if your build consumes a lot of charges. The elemental life leech is also great for recovery, but you will lack actual damage mitigation. The Ritualist can be very good, but heavily reliant on your gear. The supposedly iconic feature, the Ritual Sacrifice, has been compressed to 1 passive only, saving you 1 ascendancy point. It still requires a long animation to complete, and the buff duration is quite low. You would never pick this ascendancy for this skill alone. At some point, the extra ring slot and increased jewelry effects can be worth more than the entire proper ascendancy, but it requires very high levels of investment, definitely not suitable for the start of a new league. Invoker is only slightly adjusted. Elemental Expression has higher damage, and Meditate has lower cooldown and higher ES recharge rate, but the Overflow grants 50% less effect than before. Monk can also benefit from deflection, infusion, and passives on a skill tree, so it's a rather safe choice. The Unbound Avatar provides an insane burst of damage, and you can completely ignore elemental resistances with your critical strikes. The biggest impact here is the Hollow Palm technique Keystone, which allows for a new unarmed approach. It is very effective for leveling and the early game, making your campaign progression a breeze, but it seems you will have to transition to regular quarterstaffs at the highest levels of investments again. Acolyte of Chaula has been completely reworked. You can now generate volatility stacks that grants extra chaos damage and ignore their usual downside. You can also apply all 3 elemental ailments with your chaos damage, but only if you get the relevant cycling buff, so it is not that great. The leech can now be based on the chaos damage, but it no longer affects energy shield as well. The darkness branch is still weak. You can also pick the Void Illusion skill, which creates a short-lived copy of yourself upon dodge rolling. It explodes when killed by enemies, dealing heavy damage around it. You may build a Nightly around this skill. but such build would definitely suffer from the 4-second cooldown and rather clunky playstyle. Infernalist is still the go-to class for minion builds due to the high spirit, especially now as most minions received major buffs to their performance. The spellcaster variants also got some changes. You can wield a weapon while in demon form, the infernal flame pool is doubled, and you lose it twice as slow. The demon form in the basic approach grants 30% more spell damage, but it is possible to achieve much higher damage with specialized setups that focus on sustaining unlimited demon flame stacks. The Ignite is still the weakest of all damaging ailments, although the new Black Flame Covenant Keystone may unlock its true potential. Blood Mage is a huge winner this patch. Sanguimancy is now free. Sunder the Flesh and Gore Spike are swapped, which is great for most builds, since critical strike chance is more valuable to them. You can now charge your life flask up by spending life, and when it's full, 40% of its charges are consumed to grant you extra damage as physical damage for 3 seconds. Open Sores also got a makeover. Now, enemies affected by your curses have 15% of their life reserved. It's very good for all kinds of spells on a character with high maximum life and critical damage, but it's also the best option for a bleed build due to automatic aggravation and elemental damage scaling. Lich remains very powerful and versatile. Your curses can now last forever, but realistically, you would never pick that notable anyway. The defensive capabilities remain one of the best in the game, although it's a bit reliant on your items. The Eldritch Empowerment now drains more energy shield, but if you don't overinvest in cast speed, it is not that noticeable. It is a great pick for ever popular Essence Drain and Contagion, but you can easily branch out into different spells, or even minions. Stormweaver had to adjust to the new triple elemental environment. The Elemental Storm has a lower cooldown, and you can raise its limit to 2 at once, but its damage is still not that impressive. Force of Will has changed. It now shifts 20% of incoming damage to be taken from mana first, funneling you into a mana playstyle. It is the best ascendancy for elemental infusions, as you can get a 50% chance to gain a second different elemental infusion, or respawn remnants again after picking them up. This playstyle is still highly experimental, and probably won't be enjoyable at lower levels if all your damage is locked behind picking up remnants. Chronomancer lost Unleash and gained Inevitable Agony. It's supposed to help you fight tough enemies by storing the damage they take in a curse form, and then damage them again once the curse expires. It can enhance your burst quite substantially, but it also makes your gameplay more complex. The cycling cast speed bonus is now less volatile and abrupt. It definitely looks more appealing, but this ascendancy still requires a lot more work to get similar results as other, simpler options. It is still a great choice if you want to play with your friends. Warbringer has received some changes, but the most impactful are the general block changes. You can now always block all hits, which previously required the Turtle Charm notable, but your default maximum block chance is only 50%. You can raise it up to 62% with some investments on the passive tree and shield corruption. As Warbringer, you can instead bring it back to unchangeable 75%, but you would take 20% damage from the blocked hits, which is usually not worth the trade-off. All ancestral spirits are now stronger and more responsive, and you can summon one additional totem. His no cooldown for War Cries passive has been merged with the one that explodes corpses, which saves you 1 ascension if you're planning to use them. You also no longer lose Jade when hit, which works very well with a block-based playstyle. Smith of Kitava did lose a lot of power. Flowing Metal causes 50% of armor to also apply to all elemental hit damage, instead of plus 5% max fire resistance now. It can be good in some specific scenarios, but insignificant to most. The changes around the Ascendancy are much more impactful, such as the nerf to Giant's Blood Keystone, changes to block, or restricting the access to maximum fire resistance. The other features of this Ascendancy, the Tempering Weapon, manifesting a weapon-themed minion, or triggering a fire spell on hit, are still quite terrible. This patch doesn't look good for the warriors, especially Smith of Kitava. Titan is also affected by Giant's Blood and block changes, but still remains the top pick for mace skills so far. This Ascendancy is heavily carried by the Hulking form, which increases the effect of small passive skills. It is especially noticeable after the massive influx of new options on the passive tree. This Ascendancy also excels at stunning enemies and exploiting their vulnerable state, thanks to the massive damage boost against stunned enemies. Many of the melee skills received some buffs, especially fire-themed ones. They might not be the best at everything, but you won't regret it if you simply enjoy this playstyle. Witch Hunter's passive for additional swap point has been buffed. It went from 20 weapon set skill points to 100. Remember, weapon swapping is now instant and you can use the same weapon for both sets, which makes this ascendancy much more promising. The concentration break offers solid amp to your damage that suits any setup, and the additional explosions can greatly boost your clear speed. Even if you don't have proper use for the weapon sets, it is a solid and simple choice. Tactician is very good now. Major buffs all across the board, especially for the ballista type builds that he is known for. Banner skills have been altered. They require more effort to place, but the effect they grant is much improved, making the Tactician's ability to place all three at the same time stand out. This ascendancy is surprisingly durable thanks to fast pin build-up, and the hybrid armor and evasion playstyle. Gemling Legionnaire can now generate a random charge every 8 seconds. You can skew the chances of getting the charge you want by equipping skill gems of a specific color, but the long wait time makes it not desirable as your main charge generation. Since every character can use as many of the same support gems as they please, the gem-studded had to go. It now causes you to get useful bonuses depending on your gem colors, and you can balance it out to gain all 3 bonuses at once. It can be a very good ascendancy, but it's tied to very specific setups, and you will need a lot of perfect jeweler's orbs to unlock the full potential here. As always, each ascendancy can fulfill its specific niche, and some can fulfill more niches at once. There is no single ascendancy that can do it all, or be equally fun for all players. The game and possible strategies are constantly evolving with each new update, often yielding surprising results. One can also expect a few adjustments in the upcoming days that fix or break certain builds. Remember not to get discouraged if your favorite class is not high in the ranks. Each playstyle is distinctly different, and only you can decide which one suits you the most. As usual, we will continue to explore and test various builds to create the best guides for you to enjoy, fully explaining their mechanics and interactions, so you never miss the new hot topics. We hope this tier list answers all your questions regarding class power in the 3rd Edict update. Thanks for watching, and see you soon in a proper build guide.